All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy. I got Wale with me. What's good, Wale?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Man, listen, I think the market kind of like zigzag with people this week. We started the week off. It looks like we're about to gonna hit the 700 on the SPY. Got rejected at like I think it was like 695, 696. I think it just we couldn't just get through that, man. And it just crashed from there. But again, I think we were talking a little bit about it. Um, a lot of the stock that's dragging the market down is the big boys. We talk about the
Hmm.
Apples and the Microsoft and even Amazon a little bit too. So it's like we're talking about like those big companies kind of dragging the market a little bit down. But other than that, man, I think this week it wasn't about necessarily fear. I think it was about like recalibrating. Like there's pocket of the stock market that's still moving, and you kind of have to kind of pay attention to it a little bit to be able to see exactly what's moving. But overall, man, like I think we are in a place right now where there's tons of opportunity. Like I think this is the second week in a row we saw like a drop in the market. Again, opportunities is still going to be open at this time. So those some of those stocks that we talked about, you might need to start building your list again, and you might need to start thinking about what sectors to focus on. Again, we're going to tell you guys a little bit about what sectors we're focusing on and what show to go watch. I can't believe Wale found that exact episode that we were talking about that specific thing, but let's get into it, man. Let's kick off the day. Let's kick off this show with like talk about the CPI numbers and the job numbers. As you can see, like I mean, CPI kind of came in line with expectations. It didn't go like too far, and I forgot what's the numbers. I think I had the numbers up here a little bit, but CPI came in line with expectation overall. Nothing surprising, nothing too crazy with the report that came out. But it also shows that inflation is kind of like, is it cooling? Is it going downward? Again, like some of those numbers that you can either choose to believe it. I mean, I'm staying on the a cautious side of this thing because like I don't know if they're reporting the right numbers or they're just making up stuff. But but the consumer price index for January accelerated 2.4%, from the same year ago, down 0.3% point from the prior month and the lowest since May 2025. So, they're telling us the numbers went down. I mean, that yeah, we shall see. But again, CPI is always tricky to me at least because it doesn't take into account food and energy, right? Once you start adding food and energy and all this
No,
stuff, you all
food.
know
CPI takes in food and energy. PCE excludes food
PCE.
and PCE excludes food and energy. Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. But excluding food and energy, the core CPI was up 2.5%.
Correct. Yes.
If you exclude it. So
Yeah.
other than that, like I mean, let's talk a little bit about that, man. Because again, like I am suspicious of some of those numbers. I mean, I've always been suspicious with data that comes out of this administration. So let's see what happens with with the numbers going on to the end of the year. But again, let's talk a little bit about those numbers, man.
Yeah. I think the one area that I will say that is helping CPI is that gasoline prices and energy prices are not super elevated, right?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will say that we all have to be mindful of is that there is some ruffling of conflicts going on in the Middle East with Iran. I don't know how that's going to affect oil prices in the near future, but there is some tension going on in that area and they're trying to negotiate, some talks. I don't have all the details. I don't really
Yeah.
follow that until something blows up and then that's when I'll start figuring out what's going on. But right now what I'm hearing is that there are talks, but there aren't really, how should I put it? They haven't come to any sort of resolution. So
Hmm.
if conflict starts to get worse, oil prices could go up. We don't know. We just have to wait and see. Um, but I think that that's one of the bigger things that's keeping CPI down. Now, as you mentioned, you take out, you look at just the core has actually moved a little bit higher.
Hmm.
So again, I'll take the information with a grain of salt. All of this talk about inflation is dead and all that stuff. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. I'm in the camp that prices are going up slower than before,
Than
but
before.
they're still going up.
Facts.
So that's what
Facts.
you have to realize, right? Prices are going up, but they're just going up a lot slower than before. So,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, 2.4% CPI, people were looking at 2.5, previous was 2.7. I mean, again, it is what it is, but this is this continues to build my case, or our case that we've been talking about, is why you want to be a long-term investor, because what happens to the
Hmm.
prices of everything, things just tend to go up and get more expensive.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep. I mean, and even like if you look at the January job reports, I think we added, but well, increased by 130,000,
hmm
exceeding expectation,
hmm
while unemployment rate fell from, get this, from 4.4 to 4.3, and we're celebrating that. That is nothing to be celebrated about that, guys. Like it's
No,
just,
no.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And most of those jobs was added in what, in the healthcare sector, I believe,
hmm
and social assistance in constructions. So again, excluding the technology sector, excluding the sectors that like that's actually driving this stock market. You know what I mean? If you look across like the big boys, they're laying off people. You know what I mean? So now we start thinking about things that might not necessarily be impacted so much by the technology and all the stuff. Healthcare is, I think healthcare down the road is going to be impacted, but healthcare is so much focused on services rather than like technology based.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it might be not impacted so much, and plus there's so much bureaucracy when it comes to healthcare and technology. So it's like you can't
hmm
just it's not easy for you to implement a technology. You got to go through a lot of red tape to get that implemented. So
Gotcha.
that might be a little bit slower pace there. That's why probably they're adding more jobs. Social assistant, the same thing. You can't train AI to help somebody who's in distress, and you need somebody to talk to somebody face to face.
Yeah.
Same thing with construction. So it's like, so some of those areas I can see why they're adding jobs, because people need healthcare, people need road to be built, people need social assistance and all that stuff. But again, overall, from 4.4 to 4.3%, that is not to be celebrated about, man. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna take time.
It's a small drop. To me, when we start getting near to like 4.0 or below 4, that's when I'll say that we have a very strong job market. I guess we're
Yep.
trending in the right direction, but you can kind of see the up and down momentum that we've
Yeah.
seen of the job market. So,
Yep. Yep.
I will say that the numbers don't give off any sort of panic, right? And I will also say that because of those numbers, a lot of people are now saying that the Fed is not going to be in any sort of hurry to start cutting rates because
Mm.
employment is, kind of where they feel it should be. And we saw that huge drop yesterday in the
Yep.
market, with the numbers that came out. Was it yesterday or was it Wednesday when the numbers came out?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah. So we saw the a bull trap. Basically, market
Hmm.
went up and then everything kind of sold off because everybody's like,
Yes.
well, strong jobs equals we're not going to get any cut from the Fed. Now,
Yep.
with inflation, CPI coming a little bit lighter, then that might balance things out. But I don't see them cutting in March. I think our next meeting is March 17th.
Hmm.
I think they're going to hold. How the market reacts to that, we'll just have to wait and see. But I don't see any Fed cut coming in March. Then we still got to wait until Kevin Warsh gets officially appointed
Yep. Yep.
later in
Yep.
the future, and to see what changes with him taking the helm of the Fed.
Yep. That's an interesting guy too. I was reading a lot more about him this past couple of weeks. So you guys should really go listen to him and see like some of the things that he supported. Like, I mean, like he's overall he's been in this industry before.
Yep.
He knows how it works and all this stuff. But again, like he's a big, very, very big supporter of this administration. So
Mm.
we shall see
We
how.
shall see. We shall. And I think another thing that I think they talked about with him is that he's a lot more focused on the balance sheet of the Fed rather than just using rates as the tool to kind of keep things
Hmm.
stabilized. So I
Hmm.
want to see
Hmm.
if there's a drastic change in how they manage that balance sheet
Yep.
because the balance sheet has to do with like liquidity, has to do with, a lot of things that can affect the markets.
Hmm.
So we'll see if he takes a different approach than Jerome
Yep.
did.
Yeah. And the last thing he was talking about was how the current Fed's still using ancient ways of determining whether to cut interest rate or to keep them steady and all this stuff. So he said it's time for a change. What does that mean? I have no idea,
I
but
have no idea.
we'll see when the time
Yeah,
comes because I'm
we
pretty
gotta
sure there's
wait.
going to be some shakeup. Yeah, absolutely. But let's move on to some of the software names, man. We talked a lot about this sector, like when it comes to like the software. Some of the software is getting beat, like they stole something. Like they're just not going anywhere. You know what I mean? But then we started to see some glimpses of some life in some of those sectors. For example, Datadog. They're moving up a little bit. Net also Fastly and Fast. I feel like we talked about Fast like last week. There's some improvement happening also on that one. So this rotation that's happening is like people are becoming more comfortable with certain. I mean, investors are becoming more comfortable with certain sectors of the software, and they're starting to see some investment into that. So let's talk a little bit about that sector in specifically.
Yeah, so fast. I'll start with the software sector in general, and this is what I will say is that everyone thinks that software is going to die because of AI, but I
Mm.
will say that there are some companies that provide mission critical services. What
Yep.
does that mean? That means if they don't offer their service to your business could shut down. And that's why I keep focusing on cybersecurity. Now, Datadog is not a pure play cybersecurity name, but
Hmm.
they had some good things to say about the services they offer in their earnings report. The stock did make a
Hmm.
good move after earnings. We'll have to wait and see whether or not that holds. Cloudflare Net made another big move. They gave good guidance. An area that I'm watching for Cloudflare. So they were up around earnings. They came down and then they are testing this 196.10 area. So if they can get above this 196.10 area, I would be very interested in, possibly taking a longer term swing in net.
Hmm.
Cloudflare is at one of a more, I wouldn't call them pure play cybersecurity, but they do offer some security services to people's businesses that is critical to their business. And they had
Hmm.
some good things to say in their earnings report. And I think I got a couple notes on them. Let me go to yeah. So 34% year over year growth. $614.5 million in revenue. EPS beat by about a penny. They said AI demand powering growth, and the stock was up after hours. So that's a name that I would put on my list. Now, they're not pure play cybersecurity, but I do feel that they do play a critical role in a lot of businesses. And then we saw Fastly. So we talked about Fastly as a potential takeover um, company
Crazy.
that maybe they would get bought out. But they actually reported really good earnings, and we saw the stock was up 75%
Hmm.
yesterday.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if I trust that move per se. I have to dig more into the earnings report. I think it was a lot of short covering because that
Short
stock,
coverings.
I think that
Yep.
stock was heavily shorted. And once
Yep.
I guess let me see. I think they posted a positive quarter. That stock shot from about what $8 to $19 in like two
$19.
days. It's
Yep.
up another 13% today, so more
Yep.
short covering. So I will keep saying this. There are going to be some more names that are going to report, but cybersecurity is a mission critical line of business for a lot of companies out there, especially when it comes to protecting data. So there's a couple peer play names out there that you can look at. I got to go to my chat GPT prompt. I'm probably going to share this with our investment group over the weekend, but there are good names out there. Again, think of mission critical things for business. And
Hmm.
to me, cybersecurity is what sticks out. There might be others out there, don't get me wrong, but I think cybersecurity is going to be a standout, especially when it comes to um, companies that have strong, good revenue, good
Yep.
balance sheets. I posted on my Instagram page, the ethical underscore investor. Um, or yeah, I think that's what it is. But
Hmm.
the rule of 40 is a way to filter out good versus bad SaaS companies. And the way the rule of 40 works is this: you want to have at least revenue growth and profit margins above 40. And profit margins, you're looking at either operating margin or free cash flow margin. If those two are above 40, those are good SaaS companies that are growing at efficient rates. Some companies have scores that are like super, super high, like Planeteer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Planeteer, I think long term will eventually recover. Um, you have, I think CrowdStrike is another one that fits that bid. Palo Alto Networks is another one that fits that bid. Right now, they're still kind of going through all of this hoopla and mess, but I think eventually those could be some good long-term winners that I would be
Yep.
paying attention to. So they're going to start reporting pretty soon. I'd be listening to what they say on those earnings call to see, is this a company that I want to be a part of in the long run? Again, this is not going to be a quick overnight fix. You gotta be a little bit patient with these names.
Yep, yep. In cybersecurity, man, that is a very, very mission critical to
Mission
any
critical. Yep.
company, you
Yep.
know. So it's not gonna be one of those things that like, oh, it's an optional, but it's definitely is a required in every company every client that I have right now, especially in the healthcare world, every client has a cybersecurity software, cybersecurity team, a third party, somebody, a vendor, somebody is managing their network for them to make sure like all their devices on the network is secure and safe. As long as you have anything on the network, you need to make sure it's secure.
Correct.
Period.
Anything in the cloud, and the thing is, we so many things run on data, right?
Mhm.
You got to protect the data.
Yep.
So cybersecurity to me is a no-brainer.
Yep.
We'll see how everything plays out in the long run. Again, I'm not expecting fire now. Fastly, that was an anomaly. Let's just be honest with you.
Yep.
But I think that in the long run, these names are going to be standout in the
Yep.
software sector.
Yep. And the good thing about those companies, those are recurring revenue, right? It's like, think about it. They're not
Yes,
just like a software you can buy and be like, is it you done with it? No, it's a subscription that you pay. So you have to
correct.
it's a recurring revenue month over month, year over year. And depending on what level you get, enterprise or, however they call it, you have to pay more. So as your
Hmm.
company grows, you need more security, you need more secure, secure more devices, more software, all of those different things. So it's like, it grows basically with your
Yes.
company. So
And another thing too is that it's not a business that is easy to just uproot.
yeah,
Like switching
yeah,
from one core
yeah,
software to another core software, it's not easy.
yep, yep.
It's a sticky business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'd be looking right now on this
Yep.
software sell-off is definitely looking at those cybersecurity companies.
Yep. And it's good that you mentioned that because that means like when they get a client, it's a long-term client. It's not like
Yes.
every year they gotta go back to no, it's a long-term
Yeah.
client.
Yeah.
So yeah. Again, all of those things ties back to the speed of how we're building things right now with AI, with quantum computing possibly coming, in the next few years. All of those things build on top of that. So we can't build more things if we know if we don't if we can't secure it, right?
Correct.
I'll give you guys a perfect example. Like this guy built he works for he built a software that basically assistant and like a text assistant that you can text him at any time and be able to like do stuff for you. So, for example, he texted his AI assistant saying, "Hey, go ahead and book me a reservation at X, Y, and Z restaurant." The AI assistant actually tried to book it online, couldn't do it. Without it being taught anything, took the guy's information and called the restaurant and actually produce a voice to be able to talk to the restaurant and book the reservation that way, right? And the guy was like, I never told it or taught it to do that, right? But now what he's saying is like the bad thing about this is my information is there and it's not secure.
Hmm.
So now he has to go back to more software developers to see if they can secure it. And on top of that, he needs to go find like cybersecurity company to basically make sure it's secure as your information is transmitting through the web somehow. So again, AI is growing so fast, and we need to catch up with it when it comes to security. And it's so much easier now to one, get your information out there, and two, I don't think I don't think the concept of securing your information transmitting through AI now is like it's a big thing. And companies are discovering that in a big way too. Is if you use ChatGPT right now at work, you uploaded some data sensitive stuff. ChatGPT is not responsible for that. If somebody else was, if somebody else got a hold of it, they're not responsible for it. You know what I mean? So again, security is going to be very, very, very important in terms of like using those things. Um, let's move on to another story that we've been talking about for a month. We talked about the AI designers. To think about the NVIDIAs. We talked about those companies, right? How they design the chip. Think about it. You draw how you want something to look like. Somebody has got to take it and make it a reality. That's what NVIDIA does. NVIDIA draws how it looks like, how it should work, how it should operate, where it should fit. And then they take that idea and give it to somebody else to be able to build the actual product. And we talked about AI suppliers over and over and over again. But now we're starting to see they're coming up. They are, expected to deliver now. So again, some of those companies that we talked about was ANET, AMAT, VAT, TSM. Like those are the suppliers that actually going to be able to bring the vision that NVIDIA has to life. And they are, I mean, their guidance has been looking spectacular lately. So let's talk a little bit about some of those companies and how exactly they are able to deliver those numbers.
So back on our show on 9/24 of last year, we put together a list of 10 sectors within the AI build out that will allow people to invest in. So we
Mhm.
only looked at 10 and we gave five names in each sector as far as places that you can invest. Now, while the headlines are talking about, oh my God, Amazon spending 200 billion, Google spending 185 billion. Everybody's talking about who's going to have the best chatbot and all that stuff. At the end
Right.
of the day, the people that are putting stuff in the data centers are the true winners because all that spend has to go to someone.
Hmm.
It has to go to someone. To me, the top names in those spaces, ASML, TSM, AMAT, and Lam Research, LRCX. I'd even
Hmm.
throw Micron in there when
Micron.
it
Yep.
comes to memory because we gave that name in on that list as well. Let me give you some numbers. So this is from our 9/24 show. The close of ASML on 9/25, the stock closed at $949 a share. The stock hit a high of 14.93 a share back on 128.
That's
Still
nuts.
hovering above $1,400 a share.
That's nuts.
Let's look at AMAT. AMAT closed at let's see, where's the closing price? 199 a share, 199.60 a share on 9/25. AMAT traded at a high yesterday of $376 a share. Let's go to an
Nuts.
let's go to another one. Let's go to Lam Research. All right, Lam Research on 9/25 last year closed at $128 a share. Lam Research hit a high of $251 a share and is now trading at $235 a share.
Nuts.
Let's go to Micron. Micron was trading at on 9/25. It closed at 156 a share. It hit a high of 455 a share and is
Mm.
now trading at 411 a share. So, what does that tell you? And then we started to look at some of the oh, I forgot another one. VRT.
VRT. I was gonna say.
VRT closed at 139.77 a share. Hit a high of $255 a share yesterday after earnings, now trading at 234. It was up 23% after it
That
reported.
is nuts.
So a lot of these companies that are putting things into the data centers are the beneficiaries of all this build out spend. Now,
Hmm.
there are probably other companies out there that are benefiting as well. But those four or five that I've given are probably like the clear cut big winners because nothing gets built on the semiconductor side without them. And then when it comes to the cooling side, those are really, really important aspects to the business. Now,
Mm-hmm.
ANET reported they're a networking company. Now, ANET is down from where they were trading back on 925, Arista Networks. They're trying to get through the area where it dropped from last earnings report.
Mm-hmm.
If it can get above like 146, 149, this one could possibly start to move again. Because if I'm looking at their numbers from their earnings report, revenue of $2.49 billion, 29% growth year over year. They beat on EPS, and then their guidance was really good. So they're guiding above estimates, gross margins of 62 to 63%, operating margins of 46%. So AI training clusters need faster networks. Hyperscalers are expanding data centers, Ethernet replacing legacy architecture. So when it comes to the networking part of the business, this is a name that I'd be paying attention to and see if they can
Mm-hmm.
start to gain some traction. So we'll just have to wait and see. But go back to that show from 924 and look at the names on that list because there's
Mm-hmm.
so many components to look at. You just need to do the research to find the quality companies within that sector.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I mean, we didn't talk about SanDisk. We missed that one
You
completely.
missed that one. Yeah.
Even though Micron did really good in the memory space,
Yeah.
SanDisk, WDC, and Seagate did really, really good as well. So, yeah. Another thing, I will put this out there. I won't give the specific name, but think of backup power to data centers. Main power goes out, backup
Mm-hmm.
power is going to be needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who could be or who are going to be the players to provide that product to those data centers.
Yep. Yep.
So
And that is needed today. Um,
today,
yeah,
yes.
because if you look at so for example, like Pennsylvania, for example, they're actually exploring how some of those data centers can come offline and go into backup power because they are draining the cities surrounding cities of energy and stuff.
Hmm.
So they wanted to be able to go to backup power maybe like a few times a day. So
Hmm.
again, that's happening today. You know what I mean? That's a requirement. That's something that's needed today. So go do your research. I
Yeah.
promise you, all you gotta do
Yeah.
is type in backup power, you know,
Yeah.
companies on the stock market. You can get all the tickers and
And
start
I
picking from there.
and I will keep saying this. I really and Billy has been very adamant about this. We don't know how the power story is going to unfold, but that's going to be one of the biggest
Yep.
needs in the next 5, 6, 7 years when it comes to all of these data centers when they come online. So
Hmm.
um, we don't know how they're going to dissect. Okay, how much power comes from the grid? How much power comes from nuclear or comes from other different sources? We don't know how they're going to divvy that up.
Yep.
But power, to me, I think power independent of the grid is going to be the biggest
Yep.
power play.
Yep.
And I still think nuclear is what is going to fit that need.
Oh
So
yeah.
we just need to have one of these US companies like either Oklo or SMR finally get their product online so they can start delivering to these companies. Because again, SMR technology is not something that's new. It exists.
Exist. Yep.
It exists in Russia. It exists in China. But the US is not going to buy nuclear energy from from
Mm-mm.
those
They got to
countries.
develop. They got to
So they
develop
got
their
to
own.
develop it. They got to develop it in house. So
Yep. Yep.
we've given you
Yep.
the leaders in that space. So hopefully everything stays on track. And when they do come online, those can be the clear winners in that space. Now, Oklo has gotten beaten up. I think it's what, trading around 60?
60.
Yeah.
All I can say is opportunities. I'm telling you,
Yeah. Oklo's trading
opportunities.
around 60. And based on how it looks, it could continue to drop.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if it goes down to like 50.
Yeah, me neither. I would not be
Mhm.
surprised. Yeah.
But
So,
again, if you believe in the story of power, like we've been telling you guys, has to be like you really have to have a core belief. You have to have like um things that you have seen since you have research on to let you
hmm
believe that this is a much needed place. The
hmm
next wave of power that's needed is It has to be something outside the grid, like Wale said. We
Correct.
cannot put all these data centers on the grid. I mean, Elon is thinking about sending data centers to the moon to be powered by the sun. It makes sense conceptually, right? But how long is that going to take? I'm not sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
one way for us to be able to, you know, I mean, Elon's probably one of the biggest owners of, equipments in space right now due to his, satellites and all this stuff. He has way, way, way more, footprint on the space than anybody else. So
Yep.
again, he can do that. But here on Earth, we are going to need something to be outside of the grid. You know what I mean? To be able to supply those data centers. So, and we're not even talking about when quantum computing comes online. That's a whole other thing that's going to require a lot of load of processing and it does not sleep. So again, if you believe in this story, things that's happening with Oklo, things that's happening with all those nuclear energy stocks, you know, in my opinion, and this is not a financial advice, this is just my opinion. It'll be a good place to look at.
Yeah. And I will say that it's one of those things that it's gonna have to take time because again, we're not expecting a deliverable product until 2027. And when you listen to the earnings report, it's not about EPS, it's not about revenue, it's about is this product going to be ready based on the current timeline that has been outlined by the company. And as they continue to sign more contracts, as people start to believe in the technology more, will they be able to deliver? So execution is still going to be key. But
Mm-hmm.
this is a name that if it continues to drop, I mean, yeah, I would not be surprised if it gets down to the 50s because if we break this week's low again, I mean, the next level of support possibly, I mean, if it gets to the 40s, I might have to jump back in there because
Yeah,
I've sold
yeah,
some. I've
yeah,
sold some, but if it gets down to the 40s, I might have to get back in there. So,
absolutely.
but you just got to be patient. So, if you liked it at 100, you're gonna love it at 40.
I mean, this thing damn near almost hit 200. Like, come on. So,
Yeah.
again,
So, again, if the story changes, I always keep saying this. This is why you got to listen to the earnings report. If the story changes and there's any delays, any contracts that don't get signed, government, pushback, then that could make things a little bit more rocky. But if
mhm,
those things continue to move as planned, to me, this is a good name to be in for the long haul. So we'll just have to wait and see how
absolutely,
it plays out.
absolutely. But with that being said, man, let's look at some of the economic calendar for next week. I mean, just remember Monday, the stock market is closed. It's President Day. I think, yeah, yeah, we are closing President Day. So there's no trading on that day. Let's see. I don't see any big reports coming up. We have the minutes Feds of January FOMC meeting, just the minutes. And we have the jobless claim on Thursday. PCE, yes, PCE and core PCE is going to be reported on Friday, February 20th. That's a good number to keep an eye on, to be able to see exactly where we are with that. But other than that, I mean, we have some big reporting next week too. I think I saw Metron on there. I saw some energy stocks that's reporting next week. So there's a bunch of companies that are reporting next week also. I don't know. Do you have any like couple of big ones that you kind of keeping an eye on, Wale?
The only big one that I'm keeping an eye on is Nvidia, but I don't think that's next week. I think
Yeah.
Nvidia is on 25th.
Yep. Yep.
25th,
So
so that's not next week. So 2 weeks from now.
yeah. So again, keeping an eye on those to see how the market gonna move. Nvidia is actually definitely gonna be a market mover, depending on what they say, what is their outlook for the markets coming up. So again, we should keep an eye on it. With that being said, man, anything you want to tell the people before we move on to next week?
Now, the only thing I will say is data center suppliers. There's lots of people in that space. You just got to find the winners. Now, ASML, AMAT, LRCX, and Taiwan Semiconductor. I call
Hmm.
those the four horsemen of the AI apocalypse. They are the most important businesses that lay the foundation of the semiconductor business.
Hmm.
I don't think you can go wrong with any one of those companies. Now, I will also say this. TSM is almost about to hit a $2 trillion market cap. I think they're at like 109.4 trillion now.
Mm-hmm.
They got a bigger market cap than Facebook right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think they're outpacing AVGO. So, to me, again, when we look at the whole AI build out, TSM is the most important company
Most important. Yep.
out of
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
Point
Yep.
blank, period.
Period. That's it.
So I
You heard
remember,
it here first.
yeah, I remember like 2 years ago, I was talking to one of my friend's moms, and she was like, "Yeah, I missed Nvidia." I told her, I said, "Get in TSM." I'm mad that I sold my TSM. I had TSM leaps. I'm mad I sold them, but TSM, I'm telling you,
Yep.
I'm telling you, once they hit 2 trillion, I mean, before you blink, they're gonna be hitting 3 trillion, and
Yes, sir.
we're not gonna be talking about the Mag 7. We're gonna be talking T. You got to throw TSM in there as
TSM in there.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I will say this though, the one thing that is making the market skittish when it comes to some of these hyperscalers is the fact that they're tapping into the debt market to raise money.
Yes.
That's making people skittish. But this is what I keep telling people: they're raising money to pay who? The
Mm.
suppliers,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So all the money that they're raising, all their free cash flow was going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the
Follow the money.
money.
Follow the money.
Find out who those people are, and
Yep.
you'll find some investment gems when you do that. So I'll leave
I
it
mean, that's a mic drop moment right there.
at I'll leave it at that.
Oh man. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here at the Wall Street Rundown. We're always happy to have you guys. And please remember, stay disciplined, stay informed. We'll see you guys next.